This is the Military Bottom Line Podcast, episode 64.
So it took all that happening for me to get that firm foundation, get that disciplined approach towards financial freedom, because I was almost bankrupt because I bought a $60,000 Audi. That's the epitome of stupid.
Welcome to the Military Bottom Line Podcast, where we learn from veterans and those currently serving how to make the most out of a military contract. We're here to motivate, inspire, and help you leverage your service to positively impact you professionally, personally, and financially during your military career and beyond. What's going on, everybody? Thanks again for tuning in this week. Hey, I just started reading this book. I've been trying to make reading a habit. I'm reading this book, Atomic Habits by James Clear. And this quote early on in the introduction really stuck out to me because it's something that I'm kind of like dealing with and living with right now. It says, if you fall in love with the process rather than the product, you don't have to wait to give yourself permission to be happy. And so it's something like in my mind, I'm always looking forward to accomplishing whatever it is that I'm working towards, rather than really enjoying the time and the process and the learning that it takes to get there. So something that stuck out to me this week in my reading, and hopefully that's something that you guys can kind of relate to. But I would recommend the book so far. It's been great. I'm like 100 pages in and really enjoying it. So check that out. This week's bottom line. I really enjoyed this episode with Tim. And the bottom line I'm going to take from this episode is that you do not have to stay in the same branch for the duration of your career. Tim has an incredible story of going from enlisted Air Force to officer in the reserves of the Air Force to active duty Army officer. So he has kind of done it all. And now he's like at 12 years in the military and has his eye on like the next thing that he wants to accomplish. And he's making another change. And so he's really playing the game, optimizing the opportunities that are available in each branch. I mean, he's gotten his associate's, bachelor's, master's degree, and then a bunch of certifications paid for all through TA, GI Bill, cool programs. I mean, he's really doing a good job optimizing the benefits and the time in the military. So I really hope you guys enjoy this show, enjoy learning from his experience. Good evening, Tim. How you doing, man?
Not doing too bad. How are you doing, man?
Doing great, dude. I know we both forgot about the first scheduled interview for this, so
a little bit.
I'm excited that we were able to connect this time around and make it happen. I saw you came across on Instagram because you just bought a house a couple months ago from Dan Dowdy, who I just had on the podcast a couple episodes back. And
yeah, so he's the man.
Yeah, like dude, been killing it early on in his real estate career.
Yeah,
as an agent, and so I'm stoked for him and excited. Like I love these like full circles of guests, and so it paints a cool picture, and it's like for the listeners shows how tightly knit, I guess, and interwound the military
really is. And you don't realize it at the time, and I know we spoke a little bit before the recording started, but everything, especially in the military towns such as Fayetteville, as where I'm in right now, everything seems to be connected through some like underlining connection, if you will.
Yeah.
For example, like I met Daniel through the Bigger Pockets podcast, and because Shelby was on the Bigger Pockets podcast. I was over in Syria, and Shelby was talking about how she was starting her 5 Pillars property group, and how she would go up to the board and show her platoon like, oh, hey, I just learned this cool real estate thing, or I just learned this new finance thing. And, she's having them all like create spreadsheets. I'm like, well, I've done that, and, she was hitting all of her like officer ranks. And she's like, it's better on the outside because I could start this real estate thing. It's going to be booming. And I was like, well, I want to do that. So right when I got back from Syria, I I found 5 pillars, and I was like, hey, I'm looking to buy another home. I want to use 5 pillars because I like the mindset
Yeah.
of what and their culture of what their company is about. So Daniel hooked it up. He was fantastic. The first offer that I submitted on in this crazy market.
Wow.
Yeah. Because he was trying to like manage my expectations. He's like, man, we're going to hit this like 5 or 6 times. Don't be disappointed. This is my 5th home. So I was like, oh, I'm not new, but I'm not like a veteran yet. I'm still just kind of learning.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I've had, offers fall through. And then just first one, the 3rd home that we saw, first offer that we submitted, just cleared like a breeze in this market.
That's awesome. It don't like sometimes though, it's almost like, because I know in bigger pockets, it's like you should get like 1 acceptance for every 10 offers. Then you're like, wait, the first one, like, did I offer too much money?
Exactly. I right when they're like, oh, it's accepted, I was like, ooh, did I get too much? Like second the math thoughts. Works, but
yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, congratulations on another property. That's sweet.
Oh, thank you.
I'd love to kind of like back up a little bit and a little bit hear kind of your backstory, like, where you grew up and when and why you decided to join the military in the first place.
Yeah. So I grew up in Florida, St. Pete, Tampa area. And my grandfather, my uncle, they were in the Navy, and I always thought it was so cool. I always knew I was going to be in the military. To what capacity? Didn't really know. To what rank or level? Didn't know. I was just, I'm going to be in the military. Didn't think about any of the branches or anything like that. Originally, I actually was going to join the Marines. But then my sister, she joined the Air Force, and, she pulled me out a day from school, and she's like, hey, let's go down to the recruiter's office. You got the day out of school. Let's just talk to them.
Yeah.
So I went over to the Air Force recruiter, and they were like, hey, we got this combat controller job. You might be interested in. It's like, yeah, because at the time I was wrestling. I'm a martial artist, and I was doing martial arts, and I was doing track, and I was just trying to do anything and everything. But I thought that CCC job looked pretty cool, so signed up for that. Thought we were going to be Billy Badass and kicking down doors, taking names. And turns out after going through basic training, I don't like getting drowned. It's not fun. So after what they called water confidence, for me, I was not confident at all. I popped up. I was like, "Oh yes, Sergeant, I quit." Rolled from that into IT and
IT, like computers.
Yep. Mm-hmm, yep. So I was a 3C1X2, which is a tech controller, a cybercommunications technician. And we dealt with satellites and the transmission medium between that. So basically taking the analog sound into the microphone, digitizing it, and then blasting it out.
Interesting. Did the Air Force pick that for you upon your DOR, or?
Yes and no. So I got to make a dream sheet, and I got to list eight jobs on the dream sheet. Now, the whole idea of a dream sheet is the only time you're ever going to see those is in your dreams. This was number 3 or 4 for me, because I like playing video games as a kid. I'm like, hey, I like video games. Computers are cool. I don't know what this is, but it sounds kind of computery. Turns out there's a whole new world of computers that I had no idea.
Yeah, no kidding.
So
did that. What year did you first enlist?
I first enlisted 2008 is when I started.
2008, okay. Right out of high school.
Like a week after high school. Like everyone was like taking their like summer vacations, not me. I think it was 6 days, so I didn't even make it a week.
Dang.
Went right in, enlisted into the Air Force. I was a A1C when I enlisted, because I signed a 6-year contract. Because I was like, I'm doing 20.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, dude. They had me hook, line, and sinker, man.
So this is so funny, because I just made a video about, a little bit grander than just this. So you signed a 6-year contract for your first contract with the Air Force.
Yes.
On what grounds? Like, did they offer you anything additional for doing 6 years, or you were just so fired up that you were like, you know what, I'm going to do 20 anyway, so I might as well just start with 6?
So it was both. The original 6-year contract for combat controller, they're like, hey, we'll give you $30,000. If you do a 4-year contract, it's only 10,000. I was like, all right, cool, but I'm doing 20 anyway, so I'm just gonna take the 6, get an extra 20 grand, and just be living my best life.
Yeah.
So a little bit of both with that.
Oh man, that's so funny. I met this one Marine infantry dude that in corporal's course. He signed a 6-year contract in the infantry because the same thing. He was like pumped on it, like I'm gonna do 20. Like no bonus, no nothing. He's like, I just want to do 6 years out of the gate. And like I met him at his 4-year mark in corporal's course, and he was like the most bitter dude.
Yeah.
I'm like, gosh, man, like I can't believe they let people do this. Like what the heck?
Yeah. And at that young of an age, like you don't even know who you are at that age. Yeah. Let alone 6 years from now.
Yeah.
Completely other story.
Yeah. So if I don't know what bonus would be worth a 6-year out of the gate contract.
Not enough. One of my troops right now, she signed I think she signed like a 2 or a 3-year contract. It's less than the normal 4.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. I don't know where you find those, but I know they exist from time to time. Yeah.
I know. So I heard about them when I first joined the Air Force, and it was like a national call to service where right when you complete your tech school, that's their AIT. It's like 2 years. So it works out being like 2.5 years. I'm sure I'm bastardizing this in some fashion because I've just like heard rumors until one of our medics shows up with a 2-year contract. I'm like, how?
Yeah, crazy.
But she gets all of her benefits. Like it's legit.
Yeah. So shop around, basically.
Find definitely
the best deal.
Yeah, I mean, because what I found is that the Guard and the Reserves, their benefits their initial benefits are so much better because they'll offer you, $20,000-$30,000 to join.
Yeah.
Actually, that same troop, she is getting $20,000 when she goes from active duty, and that's completed, to reserves. She's getting 20 grand to make that transition.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh man, she's crushing it.
Yeah, that's a good deal. That is a good deal. So you switched over to IT. You went through that pipeline. You have a 6-year contract with the Air Force, enlisted. So I guess 6 years of IT work. Where'd they send you? What'd they have you doing? A kind of brief overview of that.
I graduated Keesler Air Force Base, and that was like I want to say six months worth of IT schooling. My first assignment was in Schriever, Colorado, with the 50th Space Communications Wing, and that actually became the first Space Force squadron. So I'm the OG spaceman, or at least that's what I tell people. But started off there as a tech controller. Basically, we deal with the satellite transmission going from the actual dish up to the satellite, back down through whatever terrestrial lines, encoding and decoding of the bit stream. It was very hard for me to visualize that at the time.
Yeah.
So the learning curve was steep. But
I just want to interject real quick, because that's one of those military jobs that's the kind of crap you see on the TVs where maybe they're in a dark room with all this cool tech and gear. But paint us a little bit of a picture, because I knowing what I know about the military, I kind of doubt it was like that. I doubt it was as cool as you just made it sound.
Not at all.
So I guess for the listeners that may be oh, that sounds cool, let me do that. Explain what's a day in the life like, real briefly.
So a day in the life there is you show up to work. You show up to work so we work Panamas, first of all, which is 12 hours on, 12 hours off. So 12-hour shifts, 3 days on, 2 days off, 2 days on, 3 days off. So it is you only work 15 days out of the month, which is awesome. But you show up to work at 12 o'clock or 6 o'clock before anyone's there, because it's an hour drive in, because the closest base that we were living in was Peterson. So like that's a drive.
Wow.
But we work in a skiff. So you had to step in through the man traps, which sounds pretty cool, where, you have these magnetically locked, box that at that time, like, you had to, take a look and they scanned your iris. They stopped doing that very shortly thereof, because that's actually a HIPAA violation, because females' irises change when they're pregnant. So some of them, that's how they found out they were pregnant. It's like,
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
also interesting that this is actually way more high speed than I would have expected. Is this?
I'm setting you up as downhill from that.
What's that Netflix show? Is it actually called Space Force?
Yes.
Like where they this base is like in the mountains and like the rock
Giant
wall
mountain
opens up and like.
Yep.
I didn't know that was a real.
So Cheyenne
place.
Mountain is a real deal. Stargate is about 50% real. If you ever seen Stargate SG-1 or anything like that on sci-fi. If not, definitely check it out. It's actually, Cheyenne Mountain is a Air Force base, and it's built into the mountain. And that was part of like the Space Command or MAGCOM that we were in. But after we get through all the security parameters, because we were like a skiff within like a restricted area. But once we're actually in there in our work center, not very high speed at all. It was just rows and rows of encryption equipment, modulation equipment, and just anything to augment the bit stream and to basically move the flow of the bit stream from one point to another. Lots of blinky lights, and pretty much it. Things break, we go out and we fix it.
Gotcha.
Very boring.
Gotcha. And I imagine like it's not like. Did you understand everything that was going on there, or do they just teach you a very small piece of it? You can do your job, and like outside of that, it's like kind of magic.
Yes. So when you first go in there, you are just taught your job.
Yeah.
Right. Just, hey, we're here to maintain the bit stream. But then you start to realize that, the distant end that I'm talking to, it is, an aircraft carrier. It is a satellite. It is an entire base. If this line goes down, that base loses all of their IT support. Or if this, like we had one, it connected to an aircraft carrier and it went down. So they had no communication capability through that line. And that was significantly impacting their capabilities. And I actually told a colonel, a Navy captain. I didn't know this at the time, but I told him that his Cessnas were going to have to wait because he wasn't the highest on the priority list, which he did not like. So E3 me learned a very valuable lesson on what a Navy captain was. Not an 03.
Yeah. Not an 03. Yeah, that's for those. Yeah, it's basically a full bird colonel in the Navy.
Yeah.
Captain. Yeah,
the right hand to God himself.
I am like super ignorant on this. I don't know like this techie stuff. So when you say bit stream for layman, what is a bit stream?
So it's just so you ever hear of like 156K, 1 gig, download, 56 upload, something like that.
Yeah.
That's the speed of the bit stream where all of your information is going, whether it is through a physical line, such as like your Ethernet cord, or through wireless, or like GPS. Those are all different transmission mediums. So your router is a modulator and demodulator as well. It's called a modem. And so all that does is it takes it takes a signal in, turns it into another fashion that can be then shot out through your internet service provider's network. So the bits will have like headers and footers, basically saying, "Hey, I have to go here, and this is the data that I have."
Gotcha.
And then you have the footers that kind of wrap it all up. There's various different ways you can transmit data, like AM/FM radio, amplitude modulation versus frequency modulation.
Sounds like a genetics class I took once.
Yeah, once people start speaking and get like super technical, like people's eyes glaze over. So whenever they're like, "Oh, what do you do?" I'm like, I play with satellites.
But for most people, that'll suffice. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, some people, they geek out hard with it. When I was going through, not so much. I like the cool things that we could do with it because, like, we directly helped out, like, space shuttles going up. Like, that was really cool. Yeah. But then, like, come, career day, everyone's like, "What do you do?" It's like, I make things talk. Well, it actually did provide a cornerstone for literally the rest of my career, because it gave me a very firm foundation in not only IT theory, but also having to talk to people who understand IT, who don't understand IT, to end users, because some people at my second base that I went to, they just like roll over the fiber optic line and they crush the fiber optic line. They're like, how come my stuff's down? It's like, well, because you rolled over glass and glass breaks.
Yeah,
so
true.
You have to be a little bit, up to snuff on your soft skills and tell them that, don't break the little bit of glass going across the line, or else your computer won't work.
Yeah. Interesting. So I know you've had a very unique military career thus far. Like, you've done some jumping around, which is super cool.
A bit,
you're like kind of optimizing whatever opportunities are available and pursuing those. So you did 6 years IT in the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
Are you, because you started school like pretty early on, right? Or were you taking college classes while enlisted?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So to give a quick review on my education and my career path, I spent about 5 years in Schriever, Colorado, and during that time, I was like, I really like. I'm a martial artist, and I was like, I really like martial arts. I like kinesiology and like the movements of the human body, seeing how that can articulate and how that can work. I want to try, to be an EMT. And I found out that through the Air Force, was it their TA program? They will actually pay for a prerequisite credential that's needed to get into a program. So I was like, well, I just want to try this EMT thing, see if I like it. But I'm going to register for Pikes Peak Community College's paramedic program. But in order to be accepted into the paramedic program, I have to have my EMT license or certification. So they paid for my certification, and that was like 12 credits at the time. And
interesting,
because of my schedule.
So because TA has a $4,500 a year limit. And so basically you said, hey, I want to do this paramedic program with my TA.
Yep.
But in order to do that, I have to do this EMT course first. So basically they said, regardless of the $4,500 a year limit or any other limit associated with it, we want to get you to that program, so we'll pay for the EMT.
Yes. And that doesn't count against, it was called the AFCOOL program at the time, which is a certification program where they will pay up to, I want to say it's like $2,000 or $3,000 worth of a certification, but you only get to use it like once. I didn't want to burn that because I knew I was going to get certified in something. I just don't know what yet. So this was a free way I could have gotten another certification.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I ended up using it. I was able to work out with my boss because we were doing that Panama schedule. I'd worked out to where I would only go on Saturday into school, and it was a 12-hour day on Saturday at school, just taking a week's worth of classes and cramming it into one class. It was a long Saturday.
Yeah.
But I was able to do that, and I found out that I really liked healthcare. I wanted to do the clinical side, nursing, and be a nurse or a physician or something, but I just didn't have the time. Like I was active duty military. Active duty comes first.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, administration is a good way to go because you can impact things a lot more, and I could do that in parallel to my military career. So I started up on an online program. After I got actually at the same time, I was getting my EMT. So I was taking a total of 23 credits at one time.
23 credits, one semester.
It was too much. Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah. I at the end, I think I had to drop out of one class just because I had a powerful need to sleep at some point in time.
Yeah. But all covered by TA.
100%. I have not paid a single cent for any of my education.
And you're at you have a master's now, right?
Yes. Yep. I did end up with a master's. Before I left the military, I was able to get my associate's, bachelor's, master's, security plus certification, EMT certification, and my project, my PMP, my project management professional, all paid for.
Before you left, not your first 6 years.
Before I left, not before my first 6 years were up.
Okay. So you're still in, so that just sounds a little bit confusing. So
true. I've left the military twice, and I'm going to do it a third time. So I finished up at Schriever. I was deployed to Qatar.
Okay.
When my first deployment, did 365, because if you're going to do something, do it.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I finished up my bachelor's, and I started my master's while deployed.
All online.
All online. That was the only way that I could do it, because I sat down and I was thinking to myself, how can what's better for me to get out of the military and go to school and maybe have a degree, or to go to school, but I'll lose like 4 or 5 years, worth of headway, or do I just take online classes and kind of build the plane as it's falling, hoping for the best.
You get some lift before you hit the ground. Yeah.
So I was really hoping for it.
Yeah.
So I figured it would be better if I did get out, because I was getting kind of salty. Actually, just what we were talking about, like near the end of my contract, I was getting kind of salty. I was like, I'm not really feeling this.
Yeah.
I was like, if I get out, I'd much rather get out with a few degrees, a few certifications, than if I got out, then went to school.
Yeah.
So finished up in Qatar, and they were originally going to send me back because I got promoted from E4, a senior airman, to an E5, a staff sergeant. I won a few like NCO of the quarter type things, and that helped like build my promotion package.
Yeah.
But I got promoted there, and how the Air Force does their 365 deployments is you can choose what your next unit is or your next base is. Well, I was going to go to Italy. I was going to go to Aviano. I thought that was the coolest thing. But when I got promoted, I was no longer qualified to do that job, because that job was for an E4, not for an E5.
Gotcha.
So they were like, "Hey, you're going to go back to Schriever." Like, no, I'm over Schriever. I've been there for 4 years. I'm good.
Yeah.
So called the branch manager and had them change, and basically pleaded my case, saying, "Hey, like I don't want to go back there. I've done kind of all I can do. 4 years at one assignment's kind of long."
Sure.
So they said, "Hey, we found this really cool assignment if you stay." So I had to change my my contract, because I didn't have the retainability. And if you're going to go overseas, you need at least 2 years of retainability. They're like, if you extend or reenlist, we'll give you the 353rd Special Operations Communication Squadron over in Kadena, Japan. I was like, yeah, a free trip to Japan? Sign me up.
If you extend or reenlist. So you were at like approaching the 6 year mark here, and they wanted you to go to what, 8 years, 10 years? Like,
so I was approaching I want to say it was the 5 year mark.
Okay.
I was getting kind of close. If I did go to Japan, I didn't have enough time. So I extended, I think, for another year or 18 months, just to get me through my contract. I think I stayed a total of 7 years and 4 months active duty enlisted. And so I spent 2 years in Japan with the 353rd. Fantastic group of people. And that's where I got my CCAF, which that's the Community College of the Air Force. So it's an associate's degree.
Yeah.
So I got my associate's degree a week before I got my master's degree, which is weird. So I got my bachelor's, associate's, and my master's. So I touched down October 31st. So on Halloween in Japan, and they were like, "Hey, we're going to go out and we're going to go to this little place called American Village." And tell you what, they know how to tear it up there. Like we saw like fire shows where they had like samurais. They were all going at with this like flaming swords, just hitting. Like it was the coolest thing there. I loved my time in Japan, but at the same time, I was saving money. I was I actually had a challenge for some of my troops there was who can save more money on a percentage basis, because it's not just as an E5 I make more so I can save more. It was just on a percentage basis of our total income, who can save more, and we were getting about 80%.
Nice.
Actually that same guy right now, he owns 2 homes and he's in Japan as a contractor, and he owns 2 homes in Japan. Like he's crushing it.
Nice.
But so me and my guys, we would have all these like financial competitions to see like who can save more, who can invest better. Because during my time in Qatar, I actually started getting pretty deep into Mr. Money Mustache and investing. I was an early adopter into Tesla back in 2011. I invested with them, and that was pretty good. And I used those funds to buy other stocks with. And I was carrying that forward, trying to just hemorrhage all the knowledge that I had at the time. So I was going to school and also learning about real estate and about stocks at the same time, trying to build a financially free portfolio.
What was that always the goal? I mean, like you hit the ground kind of running, like you started, with your EMT, taking college courses, like 23 credits at once is not a joke, especially while being like full-time active duty. So
it hurt my feelings.
What's that?
It hurt my feelings. Not gonna lie.
So did you always have that drive and like that desire to accomplish or achieve, or like, where is that coming from? And like, when did that idea of like your financial freedom pursuits and financial education start?
Yeah. So for the drive, I was always a martial artist, and that really came from my martial art instructor. He beat discipline and having goals into us, literally. That's martial arts is the one place where they can hit you and you'll pay for it. So I think that really came from my martial art background of just, hey, if I'm going to do something, we're going to go all in, and we're going to do the best that we can. Now, I wasn't always, a stellar performer. We were saying in our pre-show that I was about to get kicked out of the Air Force because I was failing my CDC tests, and I happened to go through a divorce, and I bought a super expensive car, and that was a very low point. Was when I was at Schriever. It was the highest of the high, but also the lowest of the low. And I had to have this like come to Jesus moment with myself, where I was like, "Hey, I'm broke. My personal life is destroyed. I'm about to really mess up my professional life, and we have to never do this again." So the first time out into the world, seeing all these cool new places, San Antonio, Gulfport, Mississippi, Colorado Springs, just incredible. But as a kid who grew up in Tampa, didn't really go to a lot of places. It was a whirlwind of experiences, and I wasn't mature enough at that time to be able to be like, all right, these are cool, but I have to focus and prioritize on what should have been a priority. So it took all that happening for me to get that firm foundation, get that disciplined approach towards financial freedom, because I was almost bankrupt because I bought a $60,000 Audi. That's the epitome of stupid. And I see that happen all the time. I have a troop right now with a $50,000 Mustang.
Dude, you bought a $60,000 Audi.
Yes. The Audi was actually more expensive than my rent. It was the dumbest thing I've done.
As a E4 at the time?
Yes, as an E4.
I mean, like, this is the quintessential stupid enlisted thing to do.
100%.
And
100% it is. You should never do that.
Post deployment, like you got like a bunch of money in the bank.
No, this is pre-deployment.
Oh, this is pre-deployment.
I didn't even have the money. It was 100%
leveraged. Oh my goodness. So
at a low rate of 15%.
Was it actually?
I think it was more like 7.
Okay.
But it's still stupidly high.
Yeah, very high. And I'll give you credit for at least being original with the Audi, because that, usually it's like a 350Z or a Mustang or a Charger.
You gotta have that little bit of sophistication.
Yeah. A little bit on the classy side, but still stupid regardless. So
100%.
Like, speak on that experience and like what made you realize like, wow, I just bought a 60 like this is like 2 years worth of my pay, my base pay essentially. And what made you realize that you done messed up?
I love this car. I really do. It was an Audi. I think it was like a full bore like A5. And I thought that was the sexiest car alive. Like it was on my wallpaper. Like it was it was everything. I test drove it and I absolutely loved it. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do this. I didn't step back and think financially about it. I was thinking with my emotions, which they actually paid, that lesson paid off in the future for me. But I was like, no, I want to do this because I was driving around a little 4Runner at the time. And I was like, I want this car. And went in, whipped it around some corners, test drive it. I'm like, yeah, we're going to do it. And right when we did it, right when it was all said and done, like I was on cloud 9, showed it to all my friends. Everyone was rocking. They're like, oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And then the next day after all those endorphins came up, went away, I was like, oh, I messed up. I messed up bad. So I called them. I'm like, hey, I messed up. Can I have my car back? Like, I'm sorry. I'll give you the keys. And the salesman was like, no, man, you signed the papers. Like, the car's yours.
Oh my God.
Oh my Thankfully, gosh, the only thing that saved me was I was about to deploy, but I was paying like $752 a month on a car to sit in storage.
Not only did you pay for the car, you had to pay for storage, I imagine.
Yes.
Huh? Oh my gosh.
But so here's one of the cool things though. So I was living off base at that time. So I moved all my stuff into a storage unit, got rid of my apartment. And so all I had, so I was still getting BAH, which is basic allowance for housing. I think I was getting paid around $1,200 a month, and my storage only cost $150 at most, to fit, my one room's worth of stuff in a car, a very expensive car. But so I was able to make, I want to say around $900 a month from that, from my BAH while I was deployed, which, I mean, all of that went right into paying for the car payment. But then all of my other deployment money I was getting, I was investing. And I pretty much was day trading because how the time difference worked when I was in Qatar. By the time I was getting on shift, because I'd work nights, the morning stock market was up and going. So I'd hop on, pull up the stocks. I'm like, all right, cool. Now I'm going to go do work after I, check the stocks and, either felt good because it's up or felt bad because it's down. Now, as a stock trader, you shouldn't feel any way towards how the stocks go. But I didn't know. I just spent $6,000 on a car. I'm emotional. Horrible.
Oh, man.
But martial arts and having a horrible experience financially and personally going through a divorce at the time really led me to being like, hey, I have to get in gear. So
you had a little bit of a perfect storm that kind of like made you realize like, all right, I got like things are about to go real badly if I don't fix myself.
Yes. And I can't be more thankful to my sergeant at the time, Sergeant Brubaker, if you're still out there. I owe her my career because she pulled my head out of my ass. Like, don't get me wrong, it was way up there. Like, I get it pops. But then also another mentor of mine, Dr. Christopher Lace. He's incredible. He got his PhD while I was getting like my undergrad. He was like, because what I was going through, he also did like 7 years earlier. So I didn't learn from his mistakes. I had to make my own unique mistakes. Naturally. I had newer, better ideas.
Yeah, right.
But he showed me how to correct them earlier and faster. So if it wasn't for those two people at the right place at the right time, I wouldn't be sitting talking to you right now.
Yeah.
But I took all that momentum and I kept that going throughout my bachelor's. I finished my bachelor's while I was deployed to Qatar. Went right into my master's. I want to say there was like a 5-day window between the ending of one and the beginning of the next. And we just kept the ball rolling. And from there, from Qatar, I went to Kadena in Japan, finished my time there. I went on a deployment to the Philippines there, which got to save a little bit more money. I got to teach another one of the IT people I got to work with. He actually owns 2 homes and 2 Teslas now because he bought Apple at the perfect time. He bought Microsoft at the perfect time, Tesla at the perfect time. Like, this guy is an absolute animal when it comes to stocks. And I was able to help mentor him at the start of his journey. So now he's a master sergeant in the Air Force. He owns 2 homes that he doubled his money on in Colorado and one in Texas now. Like, he's awesome.
So I want to talk a little bit about your experience with the TA and like getting all these degrees done. Cause I think a lot of people join with good intentions of like, oh, like I can do college while I'm in, and they have this idea and so like, I want to like paint that picture. I mean, 23 credits at once, like that's for sure difficult. But like the amount of work that you had to put in. I mean, did you have a life?
No. So it's like you have time, you have sleep, and you have a social life. Like that's pretty much it. My average day was I would wake up, I'd work out, I'd go to work. When I finished up work, I studied. I have a picture somewhere. I was in mop gear. We were doing an exercise, and here I was in mop gear trying to hand jam one of my papers. I had to do like a 5-page paper, and typing when you're in mop gear with those gloves is stupid idea, but I had to get it done. We were going to Thailand, I want to say, and we were in like a C-130. I downloaded all of my research paper that we were doing. So while everyone else was watching movies, just hanging out, kicking it, sleeping, I was studying. I was cracking out this paper. I did not have a personal life. I think during the entire 2 years I was in Japan, I probably hung out with people maybe 10 times just because I was cracking out 5 to 10 page papers every week. Like it was.
Do you regret that at all? I mean, like you're in Japan, like there's so many opportunities and like so much to see, and you're just doing school.
Yeah, a little. Yeah. I took at that point in time, it was more important for me to get my degree and to save as much money as possible. That was my goal because I was trying to commission into the Medical Service Corps, be an MSC officer. And I was like, if that's my goal, I have to do it. I have to go as hard as I can now because with how the MSCs work is if you had more than 8 years time in service, you did not qualify.
Oh, wow.
So my undergraduate degree didn't apply or didn't qualify to be a MSc. So I had to get a master's.
A direct commission program?
Yes. Yep.
Gotcha.
So I've direct commissioned twice, both times as MSCs, and I'm going to do the third time.
Explain that. So you did your time in Japan. You ultimately left active duty Air Force after how many years?
Yep. So I finished up active duty Air Force with 7 years, 4 months. Okay. Now for my education, I didn't only use my TA because $4,500 a year is not enough. If we're cracking out 23 credits, we need more. Yeah. So I had the Montgomery GI Bill, which while you're in, utilizing the Montgomery GI Bill is far better.
Interesting.
Because it goes based on how much the credits cost as opposed to the time, which if you use the post 9/11 GI Bill, that's time based, where if you use 4 months, it doesn't matter what the cost of the program is. If you use 4 months at an associate's level versus a master's level, it's still 4 months worth of benefits. With the Montgomery GI Bill, where it's money based, if you go and take an associate's, English 101, in a community college versus a university, it's very different.
I'm not a big advocate for using the GI Bill on active duty for most people.
Mm-hmm.
I think you were very, very driven and had a very specific goal. And you had a timeline that you were working with, you had to crunch out before then where it makes sense to use the GI Bill. But when you only have a maximum of 48 months, the general rule is 36 months of GI Bill.
Yep.
To use that and not be getting the BAH that comes from it because you're on active duty, there's an opportunity cost there. So
in
100%. My opinion, the GI Bill is kind of last resort. But for people like you, where you're I know what I'm doing, I just need that extra little bit of funding. This is worth it to me to not get the BH, after the fact. It makes sense. But for the listeners, use TA, use FAFSA, use everything else before the GI Bill, unless you're as well prepared and well thought out as Tim is.
100%. That was my last resort. I was applying for scholarships. I was doing everything I could to not touch my GI Bill. But at the master's level, it was every class was $2,200, give or take. There was no way. And I had to sit down and I had to run the numbers. I was okay, if I get out, because on the civilian, I'm a information technology project manager. That's what I do. A healthcare information technology project manager, because it's a niche within a niche within a niche. I was well, they make, around 6 figures. And I had to do this cost benefit analysis of how much would I make as a student with the post 9/11 GI Bill while I'm trying to get, these degrees, these certifications versus already having them in. And
sure,
the opportunity cost was massive. Don't get me wrong. It entirely was. Most people, if value a social life, at that time I didn't. Going back to your question, I kind of regret it looking back now, but I also I got out of the military with 3 degrees and three certifications. So I was able to leverage that to then start funding my real estate. So it's a give and a take. And I had to sacrifice my social life while I was in Japan. So there's a ton of stuff in Japan that I just didn't get to do because I needed this degree in a certain amount of time.
So
and
go ahead.
I was getting a little bit bitter near the end of my time in Japan. I was around 7 years in the military, and I was finishing up my master's degree, and I was looking at all the other officers, around me. And I was these guys are dumb. Say for my immediate supervisor or my immediate captain, he was awesome. I'm actually still friends with him to this day. Every once in a while, actually, he made lieutenant colonel. But I'll ping him on Facebook. I'm hey, what do you think about this? Great guy. But outside of that, I was
I can do that.
I have more education than you, and you're getting paid 4 times as much. I'm not about this life. So I had a pretty big chip on my shoulder. So I applied to be an MSC active duty, and they said, no, go kick rocks. There. But that was my one shot because I had that 8-year time in service limit. So I was okay, I have a decision point now because I'm about to get out. But then the Air Force offered me Germany. And I was ooh, so do I do Germany and just sacrifice my commissioning attempt to direct commission as a medical service corps officer, which that was my entire goal. That and to be financially free. Or do I get out and wing it, try again? So I rolled the dice. I got out. I just happened to land a postgraduate internship as a project management intern. That actually paid. It was a paid internship. So super lucky. I, at the time, had 120 days worth of terminal leave.
leave. Yeah.
So I was able to
120 days.
Yeah, they
That's
actually
pretty
changed.
good.
They changed the rule like a few months after I went through. They're like no more than 90, and now they're cut back. They're like no more than 60.
Mm.
But yeah, so I
So
used
you got
all 120.
you got out. You're like, I'm done
Yeah,
with the military.
100% break in service.
Let me go do my civilian thing.
Yep.
And so you, yeah. So you got out. You're on your 120 days of terminal leave.
Yep.
I
landed in Pennsylvania doing my internship. I still wanted to be an MSC officer. Still want to, but I was like, I'm kind of digging a civilian life. Get to wake up when I want to. If I want to shave, I'm not going to shave. I was like, all right, let me try this reserve thing. Kind of meet it halfway in the middle. And I hooked up with a health professions recruiter who he looked at my resume, my curriculum vitae, my EPRs, my enlisted performance reports. And he's like, okay, what do you want to do? Because you have to write essays and, you have to interview to be, an MSC. And they're like, you know what? We have the unit for you. You seem like you like a more faster pace, environment. Let's try aeromedical evacuation. And I interviewed with the 914th Aeromedical Medical Evacuation Unit out at Niagara Falls. And I was very fortunate enough that the team there and I clicked very well. And they accepted me as an MSC. So I started as I was ending my internship and starting my first actual job. I was a project manager for a healthcare information technology company in New York City. I was also driving across the state to Niagara Falls to do a weekend's worth of work as an MSC officer. Gotcha. So I was playing that dual hat for about 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah. Reserve life and guard life, like that 1 weekend a month, that it's one good. Weekend. Yeah. I mean, it's good, but that 1 weekend can often be like feel like a lot more when you got to commute a bunch and you're like balancing two careers. Yeah. So you were able to leave active duty, enlisted, you got out, you're like, all right, I'm going to be a civilian. And then you still want to be MSC. So you ultimately got hired on with an Air Force Reserve.
Yes.
Air Force Reserve unit up in New York while you're still doing your civilian job.
Yes. Yep.
And how long did you end up staying with the Air Force Reserves as a commissioned officer for?
I want to say it was like 2.5 years. I did.
What was the commitment?
I think the commitment was 3 years. So I actually had to have a waiver signed, saying like, hey, he's good. We approve him to break that commitment. But the reason why I switched, because now I'm an active duty MSC officer in the Army. So I went active duty enlisted Air Force to Reserve Air Force as an officer to active duty Army officer.
Which is like, most people would be like, why the heck would you leave Air Force Reserve officer to go active duty Army? Like, that's just counterintuitive to most people.
It entirely is. That's why I'm trying to go back. But I love being an MSC. Like that to me, I realized that as I was taking that like 8-hour, drive from New York City to Buffalo.
Brutal.
I was like, I love this. Like, I couldn't get enough of it. And I was like, well, the Air Force, they had that 8-year time in service cap. And I was over 8 years at that time. And I was like, I'm just going to see if the Army, has MSC, because I tried the Navy, tried the Coast Guard. They're like, no, they do have them, but they're like, you're too dumb. Fair. But the Army, they're like, hey, we have 5 slots open. Give it a shot. I was like, all right, I'll roll my dice. So I had the hardest conversation I will probably ever have is when I had to ask my colonel, my commander and my senior MSC, who I'm actually going to go see her retire 2 weeks from now. If I can actually leave the unit, because guard and reserve units operate very differently than active duty. Active duty, you always have people coming and going.
Yeah.
Guard and Reserve, like my Fulberg, he was there for 20 years, one unit.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Like that unit's a family.
Yeah.
So hard decision and a hard conversation I had to make. And I was like, look, I just want to give it a try. I want to just apply for this Army thing. If I get it, great. But chances are I won't, because there's only 5 slots open, and they actually had so many people apply that they shut down new applicants.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm probably not going to get it, but I would regret not trying.
Yeah.
And they said, all right, go give it a go. So they signed a conditional release. And sure enough, I baffled someone with my bullshit, and I was able to, commission into the Army as a medical service corps officer. And I tend to, if I'm doing something, I tend to go full bore into it. I'm like, well, if I'm doing Army, well, I'm going to go airborne, So now I'm with an airborne unit in the 82nd. And that's what brought me to Fayetteville. But I'm not, what I found is on the Army side is I value my time because during this entire process, I'm buying homes.
Yeah.
When I got to New York City, I started to buy a home in upstate New York. And then I bought another home in upstate New York. First home was a duplex, and I house hacked that one. Second home was a vacation home. That's like a family home. And then as I transitioned from the Air Force to the Army, I found I was going to Fayetteville. And so I bought a home in Fayetteville.
The one you're in now, or?
Nope. So there's 2 more homes after this one, or before this one. So I landed in Fayetteville, brand new first lieutenant in the Army. No idea what I'm doing. Just trying to figure it out, because I speak Air Force very fluently. Army, not so much. So we're learning. I buy a home specifically with the intention of house hacking. So it was a new build. I am going to live in like the master bedroom. I'm going to rent out. Is a 3-bed, 2.5 bath, 1,900 square feet. I was living in the master bedroom. I had a roommate that I found through like Roomster. So I had to interview them, which means that before that I was Googling, how to interview, what to look for, interviewing roommates. Yep. In a lot of what I do is kind of like that. Like I renovated my first home. I Googled how to renovate the kitchen because it was bad. And I was like, I don't know, but like I have YouTube and a sledgehammer. We're going to learn.
Yeah. No kidding.
But I think that's kind of the story of everything that I do. Is the act of doing is more important than having, a perfect plan, because there's no perfect time. There's no perfect plan. You just have to execute.
And I think that like your military career thus far is a good illustration of that, because it's kind of like all over the place in a sense,
entirely.
And so it kind of just shows like having an idea and then just taking action on it.
Yeah.
And rather than like a lot of people like have an idea, they'll think about it for a long time and then they'll kind of like fizzle away. But like you just like, you have an idea, you find the opportunity, you find that door, and you just like do whatever you got to do to open it. And so I think that rather than like just staying in one branch for 20 years, now you're what year is it? 12, 13 years in?
Yeah, 12 years in.
And you're just kind of like navigating, circumventing different little doors and making it happen.
Because I mean, the military operates on rules and regulations, right? It's built on these things, but there's loopholes.
Oh, dude,
there's little crevices that you can go into.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a path of least resistance, because the path of least resistance is just stay enlisted.
Yeah.
And nothing against that. It's just I want to be an MSC officer. Yeah. But as I got older, as my life has changed, my idea of success has also changed and has grown and evolved. Because at first I was like, I want to be an officer. Then it was, I want to be an MSC officer.
Yeah.
Then I want to be active duty MSC. I was like, no, because now I value my time a little bit more, because I have 5 homes now. I also, have other side hustles that I'm trying to do. Yeah. I want to relax a little bit. So my path is kind of moving as I further define what success is for me. Because like right now, as we were saying earlier, I work like 12 to 16-hour days, which is absolutely silly. And that's a major reason why I'm leaving the Army. And I'm actively in the process of going back to the Air Force Reserves.
Same unit?
Which is a fun thing to do. What was that?
The same unit? Like they're just going to take you back?
A different unit. But going back to like how everything is connected when we first started this podcast.
Yeah.
One of the lieutenant colonels that was on my first commissioning attempt on the board for the 914th, he went out to this other unit. And because I keep in touch with them because the MSC Corps, and part of why I love the Air Force MSC Corps is because they're so tight. Like I'm still friends with all of them, and there's like 9 of us. And we still talk to this day. I was talking with them legit last week.
Cool.
And I'm going to see one of them retire next week, but he happened to go up be on the board of the new unit that I was applying to. And I was like, I want to work for him, because he's awesome. So everything kind of links back to itself. The military, for as large as it is, it's also very small. And networking is one of your resources.
Yeah.
You have time, energy, you have your money, but you also have your network. Because you can tax your network. You can try to get new opportunities with that, but it comes at a cost. If you're always asking for something and you're taxing that, that's your network's going to start to shrink.
Yeah.
But going back, I was in the Army, and I deployed to Syria, and during that time, I was ready to buy another home, and I bought a sight unseen multifamily up in New York. So it's a triplex, right by my duplex that I bought up there. And all this time I'm using like property managers, and I have a team in New York that my real estate agent, they know what I want. They know, I've kept the lines of communication open with them. And I'm like, hey, if I say I'm ready to execute, here's my parameters. If you send me something like this, we'll get an inspector in there. If the inspection signs off, we'll close. I don't want to waste their time.
Yeah.
They don't want to waste my time because their time is money. I don't want to be a burden and pull and attract from that. So I have to be value added to that. So as long as I have a good, nice, concise list of exactly what I want and what I'm looking for and what the numbers that I'm trying to hit are, that way they have the intent behind the purchase. They'll be able to find one, because I only work with people who understand real estate investing.
Yeah.
Thankfully, my realtor up in New York does. She owns homes, and she's one of my real estate mentors. So we have a very good relationship. I was able to buy a triplex up there, and when I got back after my deployment, I was like, I still have a little bit of my VA, VA
entitlement
mortgage left, and because you have $480,000 worth of a VA home loan.
So this is interesting. So you've used your VA loan multiple times?
Yes, I've used it 3 times.
Simultaneously? Are those VA loans still out?
Yes.
Okay.
So the first home was a duplex.
Yeah.
I used a VA home loan for that. I lived in one unit. Yep. I house hacked, but it was also live and flip. So I gutted the top.
So what was, because I'm trying to figure out like how to use another VA loan. And so like I think like 80 grand or something like that of my entitlement is used up.
Okay, so you have $400,000 left. You're good to go.
$400,000 of entitlement total is what you're allotted, or like.
So you have a total of I think the new one's like $485,000 worth of entitlements. Now that does change if you're in a high cost of living area.
Okay.
So if you're in Los Angeles, that's actually like $700,000 or $800,000. But for the majority of us, it's going to be $480,000, and you can look this up on eBenefits as to where what your zip code is and what you're entitled to. But all you have to do is live in it has to be your primary domicile for a year. That's the requirement. If you violate that, then you're committing, mortgage fraud, and that's not good. I don't know how they would find out, but I'm not willing to risk it.
Yeah.
So, you in the class of real estate, as long as it's residential, that's all they really care about. So it can be up to a quadplex, and you can still qualify.
Because I was looking this up the other day, and I saw like there are only certain circumstances that you could take out another VA loan, even with the entitlement availability. Like you have to move markets or something.
Yes.
You can't just buy another duplex down the street. And
as long as you move into it, you can.
Interesting. Okay.
So
I was talking to
now I also do what's called geographical arbitrage, which is a fancy way of saying, hey, the military moves me wherever I go, I'll buy a home.
Yeah.
But I use the VA home loan for that. So I moved to upstate New York, bought a home there. Then I moved, where's my second one? Oh yeah, Fayetteville. Then I eventually moved to Fayetteville, and I bought another VA home loan there. Bought another investment home when I was in Syria, sight unseen, which is a fantastic way of doing things.
Is that sarcasm?
No, that's complete sarcasm. You should never do that. Now, don't get me wrong. It was, I saw a lot through, having photos and videos taken, but there's something about being there in person. That for me, there's some things that would have stuck out a little bit more. And I'm actually evicting one of my tenants because they haven't paid. And the guy who sold me that particular property lied. He said, hey, here's my P&L, my profit and loss statement. Look how great these numbers are.
Oh boy. And
they were fantastic numbers. But he neglected to say that, oh yeah, but one of the guys ain't paying, so these numbers are a lie.
It would be this if they were paying, but they weren't.
Yes. So something I know now is, hey, show me the bank statements.
Yeah.
That prove your P&L. So you said, hey, it's this, prove it. I learned that now. We're evicting someone. It's still cash flowing, so it's still profitable.
Yeah.
But it could be a lot more profitable.
Yeah.
But I got back from Syria, and I already closed on that deal. And it was about 2 months after that. I was like, really want another home, because not only do I want, a home, kind of wherever I go, I also want to have a home in different market classes. So I have like a A- B+ home that's in Fayetteville, and I just moved in that, and that's how I met the Five Pillars team, and Daniel, and they were able to hook me up with this home that I'm in right now, that I'm still house acting in, same exact methodology.
Nice.
But this is like a solid B market that's designed for junior enlisted. So when I fly away and go to wherever I'm going next, I'll have within Fayetteville one that's for senior enlisted or bleeders, not officers, senior enlisted type, but also one for junior enlisted as well. So I'm maximizing my target market.
Cool.
Here.
Cool. I'm curious, after like totally getting your money's worth out of TA and also your VA loan, like what has been your favorite program or opportunity that you've leveraged?
Ooh, that's a good question. So the favorite, I still say the best one is that it was the very first one where they were saying from the program standpoint that I had to, I could take that paramedic, I could sign up for paramedics and they would pay for my EMT certification, because that's when it really opened my eyes to a lot of things. I got to meet so many cool people, and it opened my eyes to healthcare. And I discovered that I actually had a passion for healthcare. I don't necessarily like patient interaction all that much. However, I can geek out on a spreadsheet and a PowerPoint presentation. So as an administrator, that's what started me down that path. But I would say what has helped me the most is utilizing the VA, because halfway through I switched from the Montgomery GI Bill to the post 9/11 GI Bill and actually extends it out. I don't think they do it nowadays. I think when you go in, it's just post 9/11.
Yeah, it's one of the. It's a good question. There was a point where it's like one or the other, and maybe now it's only the post 9/11.
Yeah,
so that's a good point.
But when you extend, you get an extra year. At least you did at the time. So I was able to do that, and I was able to squeeze out a little bit more. And I took a postgraduate certification in project management through Villanova, and that's what really helped me kind of refine, because I have my PMP. I'm a project manager.
Nice.
That's what really helped me refine that. And I was also able to get my BAH while I was out of the military and doing that. So if you can squeeze any little bit out of it, definitely do it. It's very worth it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not one to advocate for like milking the systems, but I am one to advocate for like leveraging it and like using it as much as possible for what you need, for whatever your goal is. As long as your goal is to not indefinitely milk it, like it's to like get a real job and to like to go to work and like be successful for yourself. Absolutely, like, get everything you can out of it to help you get to where you want to go, and then show somebody else how to get where they want to go, kind of thing.
No, definitely. That's and that's why I was doing like project management, because that's kind of my bread and butter is healthcare information technology project management.
That's super specific.
It is, and it makes job hunting very fun.
Yeah, good point. That's awesome, man. Well, dude, I'm stoked for you, because I mean, nine doors, 3 degrees plus some certifications. I mean, and now 12 years in the military. Like you're killing it, and you've made it your own by kind of like strategizing and getting what you want out of it. So that's freaking sweet.
It's all system. Once you learn how the rules go, it's your game. I would say out of all of that, 3 degrees, 3 certifications, 9 doors, the total cash out of pocket I paid was $20,000, and that was just for one of my homes. Because that was a traditional loan that I had. That was it. People pay that for an associate's degree. So I was very fortunate, because I was able to, leverage TA, and I was able to leverage the GI Bill. And also a little bit of per diem money.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, it's getting late here, so let's close it up with the closing questions, and we'll go from that.
All right, sounds good.
All right, man. First closing question: would you recommend the military?
For most people, I would recommend them entertaining the idea for the military. The military is not for everyone. That's why it's an all-volunteer force. However, the military does provide it provides people the opportunity to see what good leadership is like, and also see what bad leadership is like, and whether you want to embody, and reflect a good leader, or if you want to learn from a bad leader, because both are valuable. It's just how do you want to learn? But it also builds a little bit of structure into you if you are lacking structure, and it also can set you up for success through the benefits, because the main thing with the military is the benefits. So I would say everyone should consider it, but if they don't like following rules, then the military is not for them. So yes and no.
Fair. All right. What do you think separates someone who is successful in the military versus someone who's not successful in the military?
I would say it's that passion and understanding the why behind it. At the end of the day, you have to have the why. If you don't know the ramifications of what you're doing, you're just trying to execute the task. It's not going to go all that well. But if you understand that, hey, like if I don't get this, this IT bit stream up, then a satellite isn't going to be talking. Like, that's a big thing. That's a multi-million-dollar piece of equipment. That's just up in space, floating around, not doing anything. I mean, people can't talk. It's a bad day. Drones can't fly. So understand the why, but also at the same time, you got to care. And I think it's difficult to understand the why and not care. Is it possible? Yeah, it is. But for the most part, caring is equally as important. So it's those two factors.
Totally agree. A lot of people get to a point where they just like stop caring. So
it's hard.
Totally.
The salty sergeant.
yeah, seriously. What is the most influential book that you've read in your life? So
the most influential book for me, I would have to say is The 50 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. It's a fantastic book, not because it has all these like strategies and things, but it shows that people perceive things differently.
Interesting.
And that opens up to emotional intelligence.
Cool.
Because what you may be acting and actioning is not what other people are seeing. So perspective is reality. Seeing that or reading that book really opened my eyes to that. Oh, while my intentions might be great, and I'm trying to do the right thing by everyone, I could inadvertently be pissing someone off without even realizing.
Yeah.
So definitely it's worth a read. 50 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. Take it with a grain of salt. But I think there's some good nuggets in there.
Cool. Yeah. Added to my list right there. Awesome. Lastly, do you have a favorite military or veteran discount?
Yes, actually. So something I've recently gotten into is credit card hacking and points, or credit card churning.
Yeah.
Because I don't have enough to do. So the the American Express Platinum card, which now costs $775 a year.
Ridiculous. I thought it was $695. I thought it went up to $695. But
is it $695? I thought it was $7.
I don't think it broke $7. I'm pretty sure, but I could be wrong.
Upper sixes at a minimum.
Yeah.
They waived that fee entirely, which is fantastic. Because I would never pay up 6, low 7 for a credit card for the opportunity to have someone loan me money. No. No chance now. But they waive that fee because you're military. Cool thing with that is you get all the benefits from it. So like I'm actually taking a vacation, or not vacation, but I'm going to go see my mentor retire. Those points that I used, that vacation is entirely free. And I also get, like a $200, they call it a hotel credit. Like I'm getting a massage while I'm up there, and it's not going to cost me anything. So that pays for itself right there. I get like free Audible because of it. So as long as you pay with the card, it comes back.
I did not know that.
It's fantastic. I would definitely take a look at the benefits. So
like if you're taking advantage of every deal on that credit card, like you're going to get your $700 bucks.
Oh yeah. Easily. But will everyone?
Will everybody? Exactly.
Yeah. So
do you close out a lot of credit cards? Like when you say credit card churning and.
So I'm new to it. Yeah. So I haven't done a full churn yet. Normally you don't want to close out your credit cards. Yeah. Reason being is because that impacts your credit score. So that's a balance you have to pay.
You don't want us to have accumulated a couple of $1,000s in credit card fees,
That's true. So the entire key is do not have a credit card fee. Yeah. If you are having a credit card fee, then you're not doing it right. You have to back off and you have to reanalyze your financial plan because you shouldn't be paying for anything. This is free stuff. But you have to be smart and logical with how you do it. Because if not, it's a world of hurt, because how the credit cards are set up is that it takes people forget, or that they start buying things on emotion, not strategically. Perfect example for this American Express card. You have to spend like $4,000 or something like that within the first 6 months. Well, cool. I was going to go, rent a room. So it was perfect timing. I got back, I applied. They're like, oh yeah, spend $4,000. Cool. Yeah. I got a project for that. Swiped it, and that's what paid for it. So I got like 120,000 points or whatever. Awesome. Maybe it was 90. I don't remember how many thousand points.
I don't actually use that card, but do you have a referral? Do they give you referral links for the?
Yeah. So every time you refer someone, it's like 25,000. It's either 15 or 25,000 points. Yeah.
Well, if anybody wants the American Express Platinum and use Tim's code in the description, since I don't have one, feel free to check out the link. And because
I'll provide the code. It'll be easy.
If I were active duty, I'd jump on the Amex Platinum too, but I'm not. So it's not.
Oh, actually, so even a reservist can do that too.
Yeah, I heard it's a little dangerous though. Like you have to be on active orders at the time it refreshes and recoups.
Yeah.
And I just I don't really want to get dinged with $700.
Yeah, no, that's not winning the game.
It's not just to not worth it yet. Maybe one day.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story.
Thank you for having me.
I've been impressed by the amount you've accomplished and the number of doors you've accumulated, and you're doing well for yourself. So I'm always excited to see guys in the military and girls in the military come out, use the military for good, and get them where they want to go with those benefits. So
yeah, it's a fantastic profession. It's not a perfect profession, but it opens a lot of doors.
Yeah.
You just have to be able to know that the doors are there.
For sure. Where can people find more about you if they want to connect with you?
So, I recently started an Instagram, OCR Odell. I like to run obstacle course races. So, they can reach out to me through Instagram, also, through email at timothy.a.odell@gmail.com. I check those every single day. Because that's also, my main source of communication with my real estate team and my future real estate teams as well, actually. Cool. So those are two areas.
Perfect, man. We'll make sure they're in the description if anybody wants to reach out.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thanks. It was great coming out. Thank you for the invite.
Thanks so much, Tim. Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed that episode with Tim. Like I've said before, I put out a poll on Instagram to see what people want to do with the podcast show notes. And so instead of making an entire website for each show notes, the show notes are found in the description below. So you can check out the links there. Tim's email and contact information is provided there. Tim's most influential book is provided there. That's an affiliate link to Amazon if you guys want to check that out. And then also there's, I picked a program that's I feel most significant within the episode. And so there's also a link for more information on the Air Force Cool program and how to take advantage of those benefits. So don't sleep on those additional benefits. And I really hope you guys enjoy this episode, and I will see you guys next week. Peace out.